So welcome to Wednesday at COP27, and since Monday we haven't again seen a huge amount of progress on the big issue items that we were talking about back on Monday. We're still waiting for some final draft text to come from the presidency for the cover decision, and this is the sort of overarching agreement that all parties will be signing up to that really gives a sense of the overall tone and the ambition from this COP. There is a very long list, but that now really needs to be edited down into a proper document, and we will hopefully be seeing that in the next day or so, mainly because we're starting to run out of time as the COP is meant to finish in the next couple of days. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for our final update coming to you on Friday. And there have been some noises this week about potential requests to water down the 1.5 degree Paris Agreement goal in this final cover text, which obviously many countries would see as an absolute disaster if that were to happen. And Alex Sharma, the outgoing UK COP president, has been making a series of speeches this week, really hammering home the point that this should not be the COP at which we lose the 1.5 degree target. And he knows as well as anybody else that as we carry on moving towards 2030, the chances of us being able to stabilise global temperatures below 2 degrees and aiming for 1.5 degrees get smaller and smaller without having to deal with an overshoot. At the moment, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change tell us that we would need to see global greenhouse gas reductions of over 40% by 2030 to have a good chance of meeting that goal. And global greenhouse gas emissions are still rising. So we're not even starting to see them come down yet, but many parties, many scientists and many of the negotiating leaders feel very strongly that until it becomes impossible to meet that target, we should absolutely not give up on it. So that's going to be a very emotive and heated discussion over the next 2 days, which we'll keep an eye on. There's been some progress on loss and damage as well. So again, a lot more country statements coming out over the last few days with different suggestions on the mechanics of how a loss and damage funding mechanism would work, including who gets the funding, who pays for it, and how is that allocation decided. And China's in quite an interesting position here as it normally negotiates with the G77, so with the group of the large group of developing countries. But it is currently by far the biggest contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions. So where does China stand on loss and damage? It seems to be saying that it should be part of the finance mechanism for receiving finance and not providing it. And that's going to be a really interesting discussion to look at over the next couple of days. And today is Nature Day at COP27, which obviously we're delighted about. And there will be a whole set of side events happening today. These are the events that run around the margins of the negotiations, including our friends at the National Trust. So they're running an event on climate change adaptation today, launching some new adaptation guidance they've produced for the heritage sector. So we'll be having a look at that one later. Therese Coffey, DEFRA Secretary of State, is also attending COP27 today, and she's making a speech in which she is launching the Big Nature Impact Fund, and this is a £30 million government fund looking to really help to kickstart more private investment in nature's recovery. And we're really looking to see if the presidency makes some more nature-related announcements today. And there have been calls, including from Therese Coffey, to think about getting the linkages between the Biodiversity COP, COP15, which we'll be attending in a few weeks, and COP27. So we'd love to see that recognition and that linkage being made in the final cover decision text. So we'll be seeing whether that happens and bringing you an update on that on Friday. And of course, the Wildlife Trusts are heavily involved in Naturebased Solutions, and we'll be interested to see what comes out of this COP. This year alone, the Wildlife Trusts have invested around about £2 million just on natural flood management. And the trusts have reported they've got almost 160 different NFM projects happening across the country this year. That's an absolutely huge amount. We've restored more peatland, around 45,000 hectares over the last few years, which is more actually than the government's peatland restoration target up to 2025. And last year as well, we completed a fairly sizable set of nature-based solutions projects, from beaver reintroductions to salt marsh restoration, thanks to funds from players of the People's Postcode Lottery. And where I'm standing today, this is Crane Park Island in London. You might be able to tell it's in London due to the noise from the ringneck parakeets all around me, and the aircraft, if you can hear those as well, because I'm very near to Heathrow Airport. This London Wildlife Trust Reserve is an absolutely beautiful spot between Feltham and Twickenham, and I lived close to here just over 10 years ago. And really this place was a complete oasis in the midst of quite a lot of concrete surrounding it. It's a really beautiful spot. The river is obviously running through it. It's home to birds like kingfishers, all different kinds of fish here as well, and a whole range of rare species of plants as well. We've got quite a mixed habitat here of woodland, reed beds because of the river, and wet and boggy areas as well. So it's a really fantastic spot, and actually full of birds today. I've got birdsong all around me. And one of the real landmarks here is the old shot tower, which London Wildlife Trust tell me, having not been flooded at all for 20 years, has now been flooded 4 times in the last year or so. And that's landed the Trust with a £50,000 renovation bill, amongst other things. It's a really beautiful asset, really part of the history around this area, which is all about gunpowder and lead. So as well as being a really important spot for nature, this is also a really important spot for our cultural heritage, and is absolutely beautiful. So I'm really pleased to be able to come back here. I'll be coming to you on Friday for our last COP27 update from a different nature reserve, so I'll see you then.